Good evening and a very warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Economic Forum, where we discuss all things relating to the economy. My name is Farai Gwaze. Feel free to also follow us on our social media platforms. That's Economic Forum Zimbabwe, and also send your questions, comments and contributions on our WhatsApp numbers. Today we'll be looking very closely at investment opportunities and the state of investment in Zimbabwe. I'll be joined in studio by Mr. Tino Kambasha, who is the Chief Investment and Corporate Affairs Officer for the agency. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Farai.
Very briefly, could you just tell us a bit about the transition from the investment agency to the investment development agency?
Well, a lot has changed. Firstly, it's not just a one-sided approach. So the Zimbabwe Investment Agency, ZIDA, that was an act on its own. But then ZIDA came through to include ZIMSEZA, which was the Special Economic Zones, and the Joint Ventures Unit, which is under the Ministry of Finance. So the three of them coming together really forms what we call an investment promotion agency, which is what we are. So our job is to facilitate, promote, assist and innovate our nation's investment platform. So it's pretty broad, but yeah, quite a lot of work to be done there.
Let's appreciate some of the investment opportunities currently facing Zimbabwe. Where do we currently stand?
Well, I think that Zimbabwe is endowed. I think we actually have a problem that we've got too many options to invest in.
Right.
If you look at the traditional mining and agriculture, we just actually had a meeting last week with the Reserve Bank governor, and he was pretty upbeat. We have quite a bumper harvest this year, right. Which obviously then means less imports for him. So which is now a very big thing and quite positive. And then if you look at all the other sectors, your mining sectors, the mining sector, they've got their big goal of getting to a $12 billion market right. Soon. So you've got so many things, but the other area of investment is our people. Right. Investment in stuff like call center. I think we've got quite a great people, and throughout the nation, we have it all spread throughout the different types of people of Zimbabwe, which is an asset on its own.
Now, of course, appreciating the human capital in Zimbabwe, which we'll get to a bit later on, who currently is showing an interest in actually investing in Zimbabwe? But more importantly, why?
I think an interest is not enough. We've got a lot of people showing interest. As our CEO always used to say, he wants to see the color of your money. Right. So interests, we want to see things that are tangible. But currently, surprisingly, right. The biggest investors we've had in recent times is actually the local Zimbabweans investing in themselves. These are local transactions that are happening locally. So, which is why I always talk about, and you and I have had this discussion, about we are not focusing enough on the ease of doing business amongst ourselves as Zimbabweans. And it's quite important that we make it easier for Zimbabweans to do business amongst themselves, because those are the current biggest stakeholders. The issue with COVID, it's also made quite a lot of investors quite shy and stick to safety. Right. So we're not seeing a lot of foreigners coming through at the moment, though we do have a lot of interest. Right. But we've just recently had the Invictus transaction, right. which is great, and I think you said you want to mention it later, yes. Which we're quite excited about. The perspective that we might actually have oil and gas in Zimbabwe is quite exciting for us. So yes, we have seen interest in your usual, your normal mining, your usual assets, but also oil and gas, which we're quite excited about. And also lithium by Prosper Resources also about to take off. So yeah, it's looking quite positive.
I'd love to appreciate your opinion, especially since you do bring up the local component. We do appreciate that government has taken stringent measures to ensure that we do have a stable economy, from austerity measures to even the TSP. And surely that must have, to some degree, by bringing in stability, contributed towards a confidence from local players to be able to contribute, to engage investment opportunities in Zimbabwe.
Well, yeah, the simplest one is the exchange rate. That is a direct hit. The stabilization, the workings between the fiscal and the monetary side, because you could have one side spending money from Treasury, and the other side printing money from the Reserve Bank. Right. And I must say, both have worked so well to stabilize the economy. And it's so difficult. We saw in 2020 that during COVID-19, a lot of countries were issuing out checks to their civilians, right. to stimulate their economies. Right. And it was very tough for our government. But, you've got to commend them for all the work that they did in keeping that exchange rate stable and not just, printing or just having that excess balance and just pushing that. So very commendable from both the fiscal and the monetary side. To be honest, I don't know how they've pulled it off, right. But yeah. Great job.
No, so of course, an increase in confidence, as you highlighted. I do want to bring in the concept of public-private partnerships. Surely that also must be a medium of engagement that should be beneficial towards seeing investment opportunities take place in Zimbabwe. Your thoughts?
That's also now just come under our unit, the triple Ps. I think the main reason why ZIDA was put there is to make sure that the government and the people of Zimbabwe get a fair deal. In the past, we saw, some deals that weren't so great, some claims that, companies would hold for over 50 years and do nothing, with them. So that unit under us, we're really trying to get the best deal for Zimbabwe. And, the good thing is we present these ideas to a committee, which is chaired by Treasury. And then they then go and table it to cabinet. But I think so far it's been working quite well. And we look forward to all the other deals that are coming along.
Now, looking at other deals that are coming along, Zimbabwe stands, of course, as a land-linked country. And I know that you always like to make sure it's land-linked. But now, tell us a bit about how that can be or has been beneficial towards our development strategy.
Okay, to begin with, within SADC alone, our position is very key and strategic. And as you would know, we are moving towards a free trade area in Africa. And that would be great for Zimbabwe because of the number of borders that we're linked with. So I think going forward, our land linkedness is going to become quite key. And, as Zimbabwe, we start to look at how can we, in terms of our productiveness and ease of getting to market, be beneficial to us. Right. So the closer we are to everyone, the shorter distance our goods have to travel. So the more we can export, and the stronger our currency becomes as well.
We are fast coming to the end of this particular segment, and when I come back, I want to look closely at the ease of doing business. But I also did appreciate that with Zimbabwe having the pivotal position, rather, in the land linkedness that's currently there. My concern that comes up is in terms of competitiveness within the region. Are we in a space where we can actually encourage investment coming towards Zimbabwe, or are we actually now finding that our partners within the region are kind of fetching that investment that could have made its way here?
Well, I think investment is very shy and can move quite easily. And I don't think we're all good at everything. There are things that Zimbabwe is good at that Botswana is not good at. There are things that South Africa is good at that Malawi is not good at, and vice versa. So I think it's about us actually opening up and starting to trade amongst ourselves. It doesn't really have to be a competition, even when it comes to investments. Why can't we invest within or amongst ourselves? Why do we have to look at it as being in competition? Why can't SADC look at ourselves as one country and bring investments into SADC as a whole?
Okay, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back with more Economic Forum. Stay tuned.
In February 2020, the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency Act was signed into law. This brought ZIDA to life. Now, what exactly is ZIDA and why do we need it? The Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency is a statutory body that was born from an act of parliament. Its biggest job is the promotion and protection of investments in Zimbabwe. ZIDA exists to make it easier for a business to invest in the country. ZIDA is a one-stop shop for local and foreign investors. What does this mean? Here's what was happening before. Before ZIDA, investors had to deal with many different agencies. These included the Zimbabwe Investment Authority, ZIA, the Joint Ventures Unit Act, the Zimbabwe Special Economic Zones Authority, ZIMSESA, and the one-stop shop, OSISC. These agencies have all now been brought under one roof as ZIDA. To invest in Zimbabwe, an investor needed many licenses. This meant that they had to go from one government department to the other. They had to go to ZIMRA, the Register of Companies, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe Energy Regulatory Authority, councils, NSSA, EMA, and other arms of government. All this red tape discouraged investors, both local and foreign. Now, an investor will not need to go to all these departments. All these services will now be offered under one roof at ZIDA. This is the one-stop shop. Already, ZIDA has been involved in facilitating successful investments into Zimbabwe. This includes new investments in mining, agriculture, manufacturing, energy, and other key sectors of the economy. It is also ZIDA's mandate to assess all investment transactions. This is to make sure that they are done transparently and for the benefit of the country. This includes joint ventures, mergers and acquisitions, public-private sector partnerships, and all other investments into Zimbabwe. ZIDA also works with local companies to help them increase exports via bilateral relationships with other countries. Zimbabwe is making it easier for investors to enter the market. Zimbabwe is illustrating that we are truly open for business. ZIDA is a major part of that progress. Come to our one-stop shop. Come, let ZIDA help you access investment in Zimbabwe.
Welcome back to the second segment of Economic Forum, where we discuss all things related to the economy. Today we're focusing on investment opportunities and the state of investment in Zimbabwe. Joining me from the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency is Mr. Tino Kambasha, who is the Chief Investment and Corporate Affairs Officer. Now, before the break, we're looking very closely, at great length rather, some of the parameters that the Investment Development Agency falls under. Let's look at the ease of doing business. Some of the measures that the agency has put in place to be able to ensure that investors who want to come into Zimbabwe meet that one-stop shop. Briefly tell us a bit about that.
Well, we're quite excited about the ease of doing business, and we actually track our developments and how we go about it, and I'll explain in detail. The ease of doing business has a matrix on a global scale. So, for example, starting a business, how long it takes for you to get electricity to a premises, registering, deeds at the deeds registry, and so forth. So there's a specific set matrix for that. But for us, we go a step further. We find the ease of doing business for us amongst ourselves is also quite important. So we look at things further than that just make our Zimbabwean environment a bit better. So you mentioned our one-stop shop, and we had the privilege of at least being launched within COVID. I don't know if that's a privilege or a bad thing, but we immediately had to go digital.
Right.
So we've set up our CISC, which is the one-stop investment service center. So even submissions for any applications that you have are already digital. Right. So we have everyone in-house that you would need to go see. So if you're starting a mining operation, you want to see Emma, we've got it, Ministry of Mines is there, and NASA and so forth. So all our brothers and sisters in government are all housed under us.
I'm sure also employing measures of efficiency, appreciating the partnerships that you have with the various stakeholders. If you just share a bit with us on some of the stakeholders that you do work with and are also in line with what a mandate.
Our stakeholders are very wide and far. First of all, our number one stakeholders are the Zimbabwean people themselves. We hold that quite highly. And in that, we move into the next immediate group of people who we also find extremely important, and we really need to re-engage because of our image and how they view us back home, is the diaspora. Right. The diaspora currently contribute quite a lot in terms of remittance and money that they send home, but they're not necessarily sending money home to invest, which is of concern to us. And we're trying to make that environment and make those investments stable and secure, and so that they know we've got property rights, they've got legal recourse if anything goes wrong. So they are quite a huge stakeholder for us.
I'm glad that you do bring up issues of property rights and legal recourse, because you do, if I could give a hypothetical scenario of diasporans who are outside, they may want to be able to do a commercial development or an industrial development here in Zimbabwe, and they would rely on relatives, so to speak, to be able to run around and do fact-finding, etc. And things in those kind of situations normally don't come together. So surely that parameter that you've set up should be able to encourage those sort of investment measures to take place.
100%. And also in the ZIDA Act, we specifically mentioned property rights and recourse. So if you're licensed with us, you are immediately protected. Right. In terms of property rights and recourse of justice. Right. And in terms of also investments, we're coming up with, along with the Ministry of Housing and local government as well, is we're coming up with a project called Mushamuzi, which will allow institutions, investors, individuals to be able to participate on a national housing development scale, which is independently monitored, has an independent asset management board, and independent contractors. So it's something that hasn't been done of this scale. It's even got an equity release portion of it. So we'll come to market when we're ready, but it's something we're quite excited about and are looking forward to.
I do want to open up a bit of perspective here, and I know you can also give us a bit of insight. Appreciating that majority of the Zimbabwean citizenry is in informal employment. employment, right? So some of the opportunities that come from investment in Zimbabwe open up that formalization of employment. What are some of the projections that you potentially see taking place for us to be able to increase from that 10% that's currently there and maybe cross over into projected figures?
What we're doing currently is exactly that. Is the moment we make it easier for people either to trade, transact, start a business, and move forward, then we suddenly open up that space. So I think some of the issues that we have with people, it's not that they're not trading or they're not doing it through formal channels, and they're not being organized. So if we make it easier, if we make the cost of doing business cheaper, if we make it easier to transport goods across the country, if we make it easier for us to trade, whether it's within or external, as we export things, if we make all these CD1 forms and so forth, if we make that an easier process, then obviously employment will increase,
right,
almost immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what we're currently working on, and hopefully we'll sit back at the end of the year and see what the score is.
Bureaucracy always being a bottleneck when it comes to being able to achieve commercial success in Zimbabwe, but I guess throughout the world in essence. Tell us a bit about how ZIDA has ensured that those kinds of blockages have been eased, but at the same time can also be able to create a good flow that allows our economy to be able to succeed.
Well, the structure of ZIDA is specifically made for that,
right,
to remove bureaucracy.
Right.
But at the same time, we're cognizant of different structures and experience and institutional memories that lie in the different government sectors. So what we are actually doing is trying to work closely with our brothers and sisters within the different arms of government, and to see how we can help each other achieve the same goal, because a win for any department is a win for the country, which is a win for everyone. So I'd like to say for my personal experience, it has been a very warm welcoming from all the different government departments in terms of cutting down on bureaucracy and working together towards a common goal. And it's quite refreshing when you're seeing everyone pulling together in the same direction and all also pushing towards the NDS1 goals, which we've all lined up for ourselves in the different departments. So, I think it's an exciting time for our country.
And also, once again, with regards to engagement, surely I think you highlighted with the COVID scenario, the digital divide getting much less in Zimbabwe and throughout the rest of the world, but more importantly, also giving opportunities for you to be able to engage and speak more directly, efficiently with potential investors. Surely those gateways and channels are yielding results and, in essence, really giving what we could refer to as a positive image and perception of Zimbabwe in terms of investment opportunity.
Well, you talk about the digital channels and the way of communication. Working from home, it was a new concept. Nobody knew it. Nobody understood it. But now it's a norm, and that's how everyone is working. So digital channels have now become a major part. We are looking at not only using them to communicate and disseminate information, we're looking at giving an experience. So whether it's a tourism experience through a digital channel, you don't have to come to Harare to see Harare. You can now start knowing and seeing Harare before you get here. So it gives investors and tourists a different perspective and a different way of looking at things. So we are working with that, and we have just started discussions with the ZTA, with our good brother, Mr. Chidzidzi there. And we're looking at some very exciting projects, and hopefully they'll yield.
Well, great stuff. We'll take another short break and be right back with more Economic Forum. Stay tuned. People of Zimbabwe, friends new and old, near and far, from Africa and on the world stage. Startups, entrepreneurs in the public and private sector. Zimbabwe has come together to streamline into one focus in order to unleash its brain trust. We realized that once we unlock the trust, we unlock the value. The Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency, ZIDA, is a one-stop shop with unique characteristics. A gem. There are uncut gems and traditional gems. Zimbabwe's gem is different. The gem lies within our people. So at ZIDA, we had to cut gems out of gems and fuse them together to embark on our own unique path. Introducing the ZIDA gems. Each ZIDA gem has been specifically crafted for its own unique sector and is represented by color in our one-stop shop. Any investor interests in agriculture, energy, ICT, mining, tourism, water and environment. Any investor queries on public-private partnerships, special economic zones, and general investment will now be housed under one roof at ZIDA as we provide for the entry, promotion, protection, and facilitation of investment in Zimbabwe. We have streamlined the ease of doing business for renewed business and investor confidence by supporting a business-friendly environment. Speaking to Zimbabwe's National Development Strategy, NDS1, journeying into complete devolution, ZIDA will directly assist each province to attain their provincial economic growth. To each of our valued provinces in your many diamond shapes, we are here to craft gems out of gems. The gem is within you. You are the gem. You are ZIDA. From anywhere across the world, A to Z, Z to A, trust ZIDA to lead you to Zimbabwe. Welcome back to the final segment of Economic Forum, where we discuss all things related to the economy. Don't forget to also send us your questions, comments, and your contributions on our WhatsApp platform, and also follow us on our social media. That's at Economic Forum Zimbabwe. Focusing, of course, on investment today, I'm joined by Mr. Tino Kambasha, who is the Chief Investment and Corporate Affairs Officer for the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency. Now, we've had quite a pretty lengthy discussion in looking at the role and function and also some of the opportunities that have been made available. I do also want to appreciate that the National Development Strategy has been put in place, and of course a Vision 2030 to make sure that Zimbabwe becomes a middle income economy. Surely the investment prospects currently being experienced in Zimbabwe should lead to that realization. Your sentiments in that regard?
I think just starting on that, and a lot of people just say, the National Development Strategy 2030 upper to middle income. And I think sometimes we need to unpack what that is and the work that went into that document. So there was a lot of retreats that happened. So each individual sector or parastatal went away for a very long time to come up with their individual goals. So when we look at, I'll give you an example, when mining has their NDS1 target, so then you then look and say, what is ZESA doing to enable that to happen? Because if you can't increase mining without there being an increase in electricity. Okay, ZIDA, what are you doing about the roads? So us as ZIDA, we come in and say, how can we enable each different sector of the economy achieve what they need to do?
I also want to look at some of the prospects that have come up with regards to resources in Zimbabwe. I know we've spoken about mining and agriculture at great length, but energy is one that seems to present itself. There's the Patoka Gorge project, right? And we look at those kind of projects and think, well, okay, that is our hydroelectricity that can come, but there have been findings rather of a renewable of energy sources within the depths of our country's bowels. Tell us a bit about that.
We've been assisting a company called Invictus Energy, along with your local partners, Geo Associates. So that's quite an interesting one. And the interesting part is we don't actually have the legislation to govern oil and gas. Right. So, like, for example, anything under the ground belongs to mining. The moment it's above ground, now it's Ministry of Energy. Right. So, you're trying to also just work between those two types of legislation. But it's been quite exciting, I think, for everyone involved. For the client themselves, they've done pretty well. The equities have been going up. For us, we've worked quite well as a team in terms of the different government departments, and just the fact that you're part of history of something new. the Mzarabani Basin, as it's known in Zimbabwe, is actually part of the Kambasha Basin. So it's actually, you've got about 2/3 of that reserve sitting in Mozambique, and then 1/3 of that is in Zim. But as we all know, minerals don't know borders. So, we've got an opportunity to tap into that. So it's quite an exciting project. And I'm also happy that we've got quite a lot of local funds that are in there, which is good, which is benefication to our people of Zimbabwe.
Right. Now, I do want to pick up on some of the prospects that could come from this, because one would assume that, if you look at case studies of Nigeria and Angola, where oil findings were extracted, we haven't quite seen that translating into it benefiting the citizenry in terms of pricing, right? So, in essence, would Zimbabweans then now look and go, hold on a second, if we've got oil on the ground, are we now going to see situations where we're going to have our own fuel? We're going to have refineries now set up? What are the positions going forward from there?
I think that's the main reason why we were created, is to make sure that the Zimbabwean people get a good deal. In the past, and if you look at some of the laws, so even in drafting the exploration agreements, which I think you saw was signed last week, or the week before, in drafting that, we needed to make sure that it was a fair playing field. Good for the investor, good for the country. So we looked at laws.
Delicate balance.
Delicate balance. So we looked at laws. We looked at the whole of Africa. We looked at Mozambique, the most recent. We looked throughout Nigeria. And what laws do they have? How is that working in that region? And then we get global companies that have worked on other findings. What mistakes did other countries make? And how can we fix that for Zimbabwe? So I think this is where the key role of ZIDA does come in, is to make sure that we always get a good deal, and that is good for the people of Zimbabwe. So these findings will translate. Already you've got local pensioners.
Yes.
Because it's pensioners that are invested.
Right. So this is to the pension funds?
To the pension funds.
Which in essence is pensioners.
Which is pensioners.
Right.
And they're participating in exploration of oil and gas. I mean, that's... What more do you want?
Right.
And then, with the listing in Australia, we're also trying to advocate for Invictus to be eventually listed on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, to allow our local guys to participate who've got free funds as well.
I do quickly just touch on that since you bring it up. Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, how has that contributed towards incentivizing investment, or at least giving a more open perspective of opportunities for investment in Zimbabwe?
I still think there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Sure.
And we're also working with the Ministry of Finance on looking to see what kind of jurisdiction we can set up in Victoria Falls. And I think it's a delicate balance. You don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse, but it's something that we are working on. And I think once we get that right, we will see quite a lot of listings, or even some regional companies coming to list on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, because our jurisdiction would have been right, and our laws would have been right. We look forward to having even a deeper market on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, and we're trying to assist them as well. We are working closely with them to see what incentives we can give investors there, and how we can protect. I think the biggest thing is protecting investments and guaranteeing that your money coming in can equal your money going out. So there is work being done on that. There is work being done on that.
Right.
And we haven't finalized on anything. And I think you will hear the Honorable Minister of Finance hopefully soon maybe announce something along that. We are still working on it. It's quite exciting thinking that you could have that jurisdiction, inshore, your types of your Mauritius, Macau, and so forth. They have those type of setups. So exciting times for Zimbabwe.
Exciting times indeed. Mr. Kambasha, thank you so much for joining us. But before we close, what would you like to share with the people of Zimbabwe in terms of what they can look forward to by the work that's being done by the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency?
I think it's exciting times. We are excited. We're a young team. Quite a lot of us. It's a nice mixture of private sector and public sector. So we look forward to providing something that is mind-blowing and completely different in this environment. And let's rebuild our country together.
That's it. I'd like to thank my guest in studio today, Mr. Tino Kambasha, who is the Chief Investment and Corporate Affairs Officer for the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Farai.
All right, pleasant viewing. Thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget to also keep following us on our social media platform. That's Economic Forum Zimbabwe. My name is Farai Gwaze. God bless and good night.